I'm Cody. This is my lovely wife, Michelle.
Hello.
We have 4 children. We homestead here in Ohio, a couple hours away. We've got 5.5 acres. We raise a large percentage of the food that we eat in our home, probably about 75%. We grow all of our own beef, milk, eggs, chicken, vegetables, berries. Still working on fruit trees. We'd like to have more fruit on our homestead. And lost my train of thought there. And we're also thinking of adding sheep later this year. We'll see how that goes once. We're full-time content creators, and we're sharing what we wish we would have known when we first started homesteading, because in those beginning stages of homesteading, we went through a lot of hard times, hard things. We had health issues, depression, marriage problems, money problems. And so the title of our talk this morning is Being More Than Farmers. But before we talk about what that means to us, I think we need to go back and tell you a little bit of our story so you can understand where we're coming from.
Yeah, so ever since I was a teenager, I've just loved gardening. I've been so passionate about it, and that just really followed me on into our marriage, and eventually I managed to pull Cody on board with me. So I just love the homesteading lifestyle. I love taking part in the process of putting food in front of my family. There's just nothing more fulfilling in life for me than that. I also love how homesteading keeps us in tune with the seasons automatically. So we automatically eat seasonally, we automatically watch weather patterns, and it just keeps us in tune with what's happening in nature, which is something that I feel like our nation is losing. We believe that growing food is normal, it's natural, it's attainable, and after some really hard life lessons, we have figured out how to grow our own food without it completely consuming our lives. And our passion is just to share that with other people, to share how you can be more self-sufficient without completely burning out like we did. I feel like we made all the mistakes so that you guys don't have to.
Right. Yeah. Michelle did grow up gardening, but I definitely did not. I was a country boy. I rode horses. I worked in my dad's cabinet shop. And then I was also part-time skater punk, like John said. And to give you a little idea of the gardening knowledge that I had, the first time that I saw Michelle take a piece of a potato and put it in the ground, I asked her what the point was of planting one potato just to get another potato back. And needless to say, she did laugh at me. My diet was about as bad as it could be. My favorite breakfast food was Pop-Tarts. And as you can imagine, along with that came something like teeth problems. I kind of dealt with that like most of my life, but it kept getting worse. I ended up getting all of the molars pulled out of one side of my mouth. That was kind of the beginning of the wake-up call for me. And then around that time also, I heard that my cousin was excited to be going to be an intern at Joel Salatin's Polyface Farms. Now, to be honest, I thought that was a little weird. Like, who would be excited about becoming a farmer? But also around that time, we had our first child. Our first baby was born. And I guess something started in me that I started to realize that I wanted something more for myself, for our future family. And so all of those things put together, it was this perfect storm for a dream to be born in us. And the thing was, though, is we were living in a basement apartment, and living in a basement apartment like that, it looked like a very impossible dream to start homesteading. But we got started in the best way that we figured out that we could. We started buying raw milk. We bought dry goods in bulk. We did a little gardening at a friend's house, and we canned some of that stuff. And so we were learning those homesteading skills before we actually had the homestead. And that's one thing that I would recommend to anybody that wants to get started. Start learning those skills as soon as possible. Fast forward another year, and we took the plunge, bought a piece of property with the goal to build our own house and to build a homestead. And that was kind of really the start of getting into major overwhelm and burnout for us. And I'm going to have to kind of condense this story of how this all came about. But we moved out of our apartment into an old leaky camper, and that was very not ideal whatsoever with a 1-year-old and another baby on the way. But we made it work. We had to do that because we couldn't afford loan payments and rent payments at the same time. And I was building the house basically by myself with some help from family. We did some church frolics and stuff, but I was working on it myself while holding down a full-time job. And while we were building the house, we were also trying to get our homestead started. Not recommended. And then when we were basically done building the house, we dove right into doing farmers markets. All of those things was just too much. Our marriage got put on the back burner. I was missing out on my kids' lives and things like that. And it ended up becoming one of the darkest times in our life and in our marriage.
Yeah. So through that dark season of our lives, homesteading was really what kept us together, very literally. And there were so many things in our life that were too triggering to talk about, and so we just didn't talk about much of anything. But that passion for homesteading is really what kept us going. So as Cody mentioned before, we dove in head first into this homesteading lifestyle, and I planted a massive garden. It was an unsuccessful garden because the soil wasn't good, but I planted it with the intentions of selling food at a farmer's market and also, feeding my own family. But after a few years of this hectic lifestyle, my health really started to decline, and after I had my third baby, it just completely tanked. It was all I could do to get up in the morning, and my babies were the reason that I got up in the morning. I couldn't handle any stress. And it was becoming obvious that I was on the edge of a mental breakdown. So I was diagnosed with adrenal fatigue, and I had 3 babies in diapers. So we decided to give up our farmer's market. Cody just really focused on his full-time job and making money, and I just kind of reined back and just focused on taking care of my babies and also just growing food for us. We never actually completely quit homesteading, but we did consider it over that time, and God really got our attention over this time. We got lots of counseling and therapy, and as we became healthier people, we started recognizing our limitations. We started saying no even to good things, and the crazy thing is that as we became more efficient and more streamlined, we weren't always a day late and a dollar short, and we were able to then pull more of those homesteading things back into our lives that we had given up before.
Yeah, and so maybe like us, you feel like you are always a day late and a dollar short. Maybe you feel like all of the homesteading chores you have it's too much. It's weighing you down. It's consuming you. Or maybe you're even just scared to plunge into this homesteading lifestyle because of all the work that you know will be coming, and you don't want to be so tied down. And I want you to know that we get that. We've been there, we understand it, but I also want you to know that there is hope, and our story didn't stay there. So we still hadn't lost the dream of building the house, building our homestead, and building a business of making so that I could quit my job and come and work from home. We considered a number of things, but I got a couple of nudges to make YouTube videos. Some of them were kind of out of the blue, but got a couple of nudges, and that's finally where we landed on. 3 years ago, we shot our first YouTube video. It took a solid 2 years of grinding, day in and day out. I was working a full-time job and basically another full-time job creating videos, and before we made any kind of money worth talking about, it took us 2 years. Once it started taking off, it did snowball pretty quickly after that. 6 months later, I took a leap of faith, quit my day job, and now we're working together at home, and we're doing what we love, and we're sharing this life together. We definitely don't feel like we have arrived, but we have reached some of those goals that we had. And so now we want to go into talking just a little bit about some of the mindsets that we had, some of the actions that we took to get us through those times and to get us to where we are today.
Yeah, so first of all, I think a really important piece in this homesteading overwhelm discussion is why you're homesteading. So one thing that we very quickly realized after we became content creators and started posting on YouTube is that there's a crazy amount of fear that's just woven into the homesteading community. Cody put up a community post on our channel just to see why people were coming to our channel, why were people wanting to learn to homestead. And the question that he posted was this: what's the biggest reason that you want to homestead? Number 1, to spend more of life with your family. Number 2, healthy food, healthy lifestyle. And number 3, peace and security in a crazy world. And out of the 1,000 people that voted on that, 10% voted spend more of time with my family, 34% voted healthy food, healthy lifestyle, and 56% voted peace and security in a crazy world. So first of all, there's nothing wrong with wanting peace and security in a crazy world. There's nothing wrong with wanting to opt out of a system that's flawed. I'm right there with you all. But the point that I really want to make is that the opposite of peace and security is fear and instability, fear and insecurity. And it was very obvious that a lot of people are feeling that. And there's just so much talk of all the horrible things that could happen in the world, all the reasons that you absolutely need to have a basement full of food, you absolutely have to be more self-sustainable, and so many people just respond to this fear narrative by just panicking and jumping into this homesteading lifestyle. And I think when your main motivation is fear, and then you are just going to, all the joy is just going to be sucked right out of the process of your homesteading. Fear is actually a really good motivator. It can be a good motivator, but it's also paralyzing. And scared people are very easy to control, and that's the exact opposite of what you're trying to accomplish with your homesteading goals. So if your reason for homesteading is to opt out of a system that's flawed, I think that's wonderful, but just choose to immerse yourself in the beauty and the awe and the excitement of the process. My favorite thing about gardening is just the fact that when I'm in my garden, I feel like I'm partnering with nature, I'm partnering with God to put food in front of my family, and that is true fulfillment, that is true motivation. So I would just encourage you to let go of that sense of duty and homestead because you want to and not because you're scared not to.
The why of homesteading is very important. Then once you figure out your why, you're also going to have to figure out how you're going to homestead. And it's not the kind of how, I'm not talking about the kind of how like you're going to look up a how-to video on YouTube. The kind of how of more like how you're going to prioritize and live your life. So when we jumped into this homesteading thing, we wanted to do all the things at once. And we ended up burning out, and we had to take a step back. And ever since then, we've never really like gotten to the place where we're adding in more and more and more things. And so sometimes when I look at other homesteading channels on YouTube, I feel a little bit less than, maybe. We're doing milk, beef, eggs, but we're not doing pork and goats and sheep and emus and rabbits and just all the things. And, you know, I see some people planting hundreds of tomato plants, hundreds of pepper plants. We're not doing that much stuff. But we realize that we could do more things now with where we're at. But we've come to the place where we've decided we want to be able to stop and enjoy consuming the things that we're growing and not just be consumed by the things that we're growing. So to us, and we've also learned that mastering one skill before moving on to another thing is very important and very key to avoiding overwhelm. So I'm going to use a cow as an example. When we were first getting started, learning how to take care of chickens and take on a bigger garden and stuff like that, we bought a milk cow. I absolutely love my milk cow. It's my favorite thing on our homestead. But a milk cow in and of itself can be very, very stressful. So at the time that I was trying to figure out why my chickens weren't laying well enough to have enough eggs to take to farmer's market and sell there, and figuring out all the garden problems and things like that, I was also learning how to hand milk and take care of a milk cow. So it was like extra stressful. So big thing is to just master the smaller things before you move on to the bigger things.
Yeah, another reason also that you might be feeling stressed is just simply because you are lacking community. With the internet, it's so easy to Google things, and I mean, I'm guilty of this. I do it all the time. Yeah, it's not a problem. But I also would just encourage you to not completely let go of in-person relationships for that online community, because any kind of online teacher or influencer in today's world is going to have to cover their backside to some extent. We just do. There's a lot of crazy people in the world, and as a content creator myself, I completely understand this. I'm not going to take a piece of controversial information, and honestly, there's quite a lot of controversial information. I mean, we homesteaders live life on the edge. But take canning, for instance. I'm not going to take some canning information and just whittle it down to its simplest form and hand it to an inexperienced audience who might take that information and misunderstand it and carry it out wrongly. I have far too much to lose in order to do that. And so everything on the internet, with very few exceptions, is going to go above and beyond all of the necessary precautions and regulations, all the things, just to make sure that it's for sure safe, because everyone's trying to cover themselves. I consider myself a safe canner. I've been canning for 20 years. I have those canning instincts, but when I go onto like the USDA website, some of those regulations are insane to me. Like, I don't follow them all, but I have those canning instincts. I'm not necessarily going to tell an inexperienced audience to just ignore regulations. I can't do that because people on the internet can be kind of crazy. And if you don't believe me, a couple months ago, I posted a reel on my Instagram. For those of you who don't know what a reel is, it's essentially just like a shortened YouTube video. And the first line of this video was, "When our cow is eating spring grass, I make enough butter to last us through the winter." And out of the 8 million people who saw that reel, a very large percentage of them thought I said cat instead of cow. And so all of a sudden, I became this crazy person who was milking cats and making cat butter. And I'm literally not joking. In one of the comment threads, there was a bunch of very concerned people who were discussing whether or not it's even possible to milk a cat. And the general consensus toward the end was that no matter how small the animal, as long as it has teats, you can milk it. So all that to say, content creators, we really have to cover our backs. And so if you're confused on an issue, and then I would encourage you to find a real, in-person person to help you demystify that issue. In my opinion, real-life relationships are essential for your mental well-being.
For sure. And another thing that can contribute to overwhelm, keep you drowning in overwhelm, is sometimes your ideals can keep you from success. I'm going to say that again for the people in the back. Sometimes your ideals can very easily keep you from success. So one of the reasons that a lot of us start homesteading is because of our high ideals. And some of those ideals are very important, and we need to hold on to some of those, but we also have to be careful. When we first started our egg business, I wanted to use only heritage breed chickens for our egg-laying flock. Now, if you just want to have a small flock of chickens to provide eggs for your family, that's okay, totally fine. But if you're wanting to have a business and it needs to be efficient, it needs to make money, it wasn't practical. Hybrid hens will just lay much better than a heritage breed chicken. Now, there's nothing morally wrong with hybrid hens, but it went against one of my ideals. It didn't take us too long to figure out that that was an ideal we needed to let go of, and we started making more money with our egg business. We also planted some apple trees not long after we started our homestead, and I also had an ideal that I only wanted to plant heirloom varieties. Now, this was mentioned earlier, it is really hard to grow organic apples. And in Ohio, because of the climate here, we have a lot of disease problems with apples. And it would have really helped in the beginning to plant disease-resistant varieties. So then several years after I planted these heirloom apple trees, they're nice and established, but they've got disease problems. I ended up pulling a couple of them out and replacing them with some disease-resistant hybrid varieties. So some of our ideals are really good. Some of those you want to hold on to, but make sure you look at which ones might be a little bit too high and might be holding you back, because me personally, I would rather have an organically raised hybrid apple than no apples at all.
Yeah. So now we're just going to run through some really quick, like rapid fire, practical things that we do on our homestead to keep us out of overwhelm and burnout. Number one is the backbone of everything I grow in my garden are things that don't have to be processed. They don't have to be put into jars or put into the freezer. So I focus on white potatoes, sweet potatoes, onions, butternut squash. You can do pumpkins, carrots, things that you can just cure on your porch and put directly into a cold room or a root cellar. And you can take a huge chunk out of your self-sufficiency goals with those foods, and it takes no processing whatsoever. Some other things that you can do are things like dried beans, dent corn, popcorn, things that you don't have to take a bunch of time in a hot, sweaty kitchen processing. Number two, at this season in my life, I don't do winter gardening. I think it's great, but for me, with my past health issues, I just discovered the importance of rest. And so during the wintertime, I rest and I homeschool. I don't either do like season extensions, as in like having a greenhouse. Like I said, I think those things are great, but we just grow enough food in the spring and summer to last us all through the winter so that we don't have to do that winter gardening season extension stuff. And it really makes so that I can rest and recharge for the next season while homeschooling, which brings me to my third point. I only homeschool in the off gardening season. So I don't try to homeschool and garden at the same time. I homeschool from October through May, which is a pretty short season for official homeschool, but I double up, we just make it work. And number 4, it's okay to have skills in your tool bag that you don't always use like on a normal basis. So I have learned to just really let go of guilt. For example, I know how to make cheese, but I don't always use that skill because I don't always have time. And I just for sure want to have time to prioritize my family and doing fun things like kayaking and hiking and all the things that kids like to do. So.
Yes, and a couple of quick tips from me. In general, overall, always be looking for ways to make things more efficient, to simplify, to make things so simple that anybody can do your chores. We had to have 2 different people do our chores for us to be here the last couple days, and it's people that, I mean, they've done it before, they kind of know what they're doing, but they don't do those kind of chores every single day. They're not used to it, and so I need to make it as simple as possible, to make it as easy as possible for them. That not only makes it easier in that case, but it also just makes it easier for me in the day in and day out. And one of the biggest things that we've done on our homestead, I feel like, is if you have a milk cow, do once a day milking. You will still end up with way more milk than you need as a family, and it will really free you up. The thing of, we started out twice a day milking, being tied down morning and evening every day just really keeps you stuck. I use round bales in the winter so that I don't have to toss hay out every single day when it's cold and blizzards and stuff going on. A round bale can sit there for a few weeks. I use permanent paddocks for my rotational grazing. Sorry. I have a single strand of electric wire for my dividing fences, and it's all connected to a front area where their water is. So I don't have to take water to different places for my cow. It's in the same place every time. And then when I want to rotate my cow, I just close the gate that they were in, open the next gate, cows are rotated. Very simple. And if you do have electric fencing, this is just a small tip, whatever. Get a post puller. It really saved me a lot of work. I put it off for a long time because it was like $40, super expensive tool, but it just saved so much. Get a post puller. And trust me, if you have electric fences, you will need to move them sometime. Put in automatic lights for chickens. In the winter, we use lights to extend the daylight hours so they lay better, and it made a big difference getting automatic lights because it's a real pain to have to try to be out there at the exact same time every morning and every evening, turn those lights on and off. Use quick connect fittings for hoses. Get a wheel hoe to use in the garden. That saves a lot of time. And Michelle already said this, but just want to reiterate, talk to real live people as much as possible who have done this for years. There's a lot of wisdom there, and you will be a lot farther, a lot faster that way.
Yeah. So I'm a happy and healthy person now. But in my journey back to health after 10 years of adrenal fatigue and hormone issues, I met so many people, especially women, who were in the exact same boat as I was. And as I talked with these women, I started hearing a lot of common denominators in the things that in their stories. And some of those common denominators were chronic stress, mental load, marriage issues, overwhelm, grief, trauma. And what I started recognizing is that you can eat all the right foods, you can put all the right foods into your body, and you can still be an incredibly unhappy and unhealthy person because your stressful lifestyle is destroying you from the inside out. I believe in healthy food to the extent that I have devoted a large percentage of my life to living off the land, cooking from scratch. But the times in my life where I made the biggest strides in my health were never food. They were always lifestyle shifts.
Right. So to boil it down, to bring it down to what it means to being more than farmers, I want to first of all say that being more than farmers is not a slam to farmers at all. Unfortunately, a few people online have taken that phrase the wrong way, thinking we're better than farmers. But it's not like that. We are proud to be cultivators of the land and proud to be providing food for ourselves and for our family. So being more than farmers is being able to live your homestead dream and still having the space to take care of your health and enjoy other parts of life. If the weight of homesteading controls and consumes you, it won't be very long until you're ready to give it up. I still like to skateboard and snowboard. I like to go hiking and kayaking and spend time with friends and family, and we gave those kinds of things up for so long. And we put our marriage on the back burner, but we finally came to the place where we realized that that's not what we wanted for ourselves. That's not what we wanted for our children. And so we had to take a step back and learn how to become more than farmers. Thank you for having us.